Welcome, dear readers. You're listening to Time to Read, a Winnipeg Public Library podcast book club. We're recording today from the Millennium Library in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada, which is within Treaty 1 territory, the traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Ininew, and Dakota peoples, and in the National Homeland of the Red River Métis. Our drinking water comes from Shoal Lake 40 First Nation in Treaty 3 territory. In this episode, we will be discussing Small Ceremonies by Kyle Edwards. I'm Dennis from the Idea Mill, and despite being Canadian, I'm not really that into hockey. Across the table from me is...
I'm Toby. I'm an outreach librarian based out of here at Millennium Library, and go Tigers go! And across the table from me is...
Hi, I'm Trevor from the Louisville Library, and thanks to this book, I had to look up a slow cooker recipe for hamburger and macaroni soup, and I'm looking forward to eating it tonight.
A good book can carry me away from an average and ordinary day, yeah. So keep it down, leave me alone, close the doors and turn off the phone, 'cause all I ever really need is a little more time to read.
And you, dear readers, we wouldn't do this without you. If you've got comments about what we've read or maybe some book suggestions, we'd love to hear it. You can find our email address and all our social media outlets by going to our website at wpl-podcast.winnipeg.ca and scrolling to the bottom of the page. Hang around till the end of the episode to enjoy our least controversial segment, Nerd Words for Word Nerds. Before we proceed further, let's check in with the panel. What's up?
I have a confession to make.
Uh-oh.
Okay, let's hear it.
I joined another book club.
What?
Yeah, it's
We're
been
not
going
exclusive?
on. I'm sorry. It's been going on for a few months, and
To find out this way.
coincidentally, tonight we are meeting. So it's a double book club day for me.
Oh my God.
I don't know how to feel.
Yeah, sorry guys.
This isn't a great way to start the new year.
It is a women's book club, so you know.
So that's why you didn't invite us?
Yes, exactly. Yeah,
A women's book club.
yeah.
I mean, I do feel in touch with my feminine side.
I mean, you two would be, well, you wouldn't be welcome additions. You'd be good additions, but you're not allowed, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's okay.
Yeah.
You're enjoying it, I take it?
I am. I just, I felt like I needed to get that off my chest.
Thank you for telling us.
Yeah, you're welcome.
This changes everything. Do you guys record it?
No, we don't.
Oh, it's one of those real book clubs, not
Yeah,
these.
there is food, though,
Yeah.
and wine often.
Oh.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, we can't do that here.
No.
Okay. And you, dear readers, we hope you're also in a book club aside from being in our book club.
I mean, Dennis hopes that. I hope this is your only book club.
Why would you hope that?
Well, because, you get another book club, they might be more entertaining and fun, and then we might be left on the side of the road.
I don't know if it works that way.
I don't know. Is it book clubs? Are they not like a pie?
No. I think this is one where it can be everyone wins. It doesn't. Yeah.
Can you tell us, Toby, what book you're discussing tonight?
Sure.
Or is that only for women's ears only?
No, it's a book I never would have read on my own. It's called I'm Thinking of Ending Things.
Oh,
that seems like a book you two would
we have read it on the
did that on the
Really?
podcast before you joined. in
Oh.
fact.
You should go back and
Interesting.
listen to the episode.
Yes.
I should.
And
I
you
will.
could play the episode and say that Dennis and Trevor are very upset that we weren't invited to the book club. But here are their thoughts.
Maybe I could play
I
the
wasn't on
podcast.
that
you
one.
weren't on it then. Okay.
No, I was editing.
Oh, right.
I could play the episode at my book club. We could just listen to.
Sure.
Yeah, that's true.
There we go.
And then maybe they would listen and say, "Boy, that group really knows how to do a book club. Maybe we've got it all wrong," and they might disband.
Maybe.
Actually, I think on that one they didn't talk about the book as much as maybe they could.
Yeah, that's true.
But who knows?
Spoilers. I don't think we liked it.
I didn't like it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Fortunately, your book club can't hear this in advance because it
It's true. It's true.
won't be out until later.
shout out to Toby's book club.
Shout
book club.
out to my book club.
Yeah. Does it have a cool name like Time to Read?
No, I don't think it has any name.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's maybe for the next meeting.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Well, with that, let's go into the episode proper. Toby's going to tell us about the author, and then Trevor will give us a summary of the book.
Okay, we have a nice short one today. Kyle Edwards grew up on Lake Manitoba First Nation and is a member of the Ebb and Flow First Nation. He grew up playing hockey, attended high school in Winnipeg, and studied journalism at Toronto Metropolitan University. He worked as a journalist for Native News Online, ProPublica, and Maclean's, won 2 National Magazine Awards for his reporting, and was named Emerging Indigenous Journalist by the Canadian Association of Journalists in 2019. He has held fellowships at Harvard and Stanford universities, and his debut novel, Small Ceremonies, which was published in 2025, won the Governor General's Award for English Language Fiction. He is currently a Provost Fellow at the University of Southern California. Yeah. He's new to publishing, so there's not a lot out there on him yet.
Yeah. So brief but impressive.
Yes, very impressive.
Very good. Well, his first novel is called Small Ceremonies, and that is what we are going to discuss today. So I would describe this as a powerful coming-of-age novel. It's set in our very own Winnipeg's North End, and it follows a group of Indigenous high school students. There are a ton of characters in this book, but I would say perhaps the story kind of revolves around 2 in particular, Tomahawk Tommy Shields and his best friend Clinton Whiteway. And this is looking like it could be the final season for their struggling high school hockey team, the Tigers. They haven't won a game in years, and they're under the threat of being dropped from their league. And so their effort to secure a single victory becomes symbolic of their hopes, fears, and uncertain futures. While Tommy is sort of obsessed with his own image, and while also kind of battling self-doubt, he is looking for the future, the uncertain future after high school. And Clinton, who is loved by his teachers and tries to stay out of trouble, he has an older brother, Kelvin, who has just been released from Henley and threatens to disrupt Clinton's path. And so we have those 2 central figures, and we have a rotating cast of richly drawn voices. And these include teammates, fellow teammates on the Tigers hockey team, the adults in the community, and even a student journalist who is investigating the racism around the team's potential exclusion. So we get a real vivid portrait of this community, the struggles, the resilience, and the complexities of Indigenous life in the North End. The story is told from multiple perspectives, so we get an almost like a mosaic sensation while reading it. I'll be interested to talk about how that worked for us and who our favorite characters were. I'll just finish up by saying, as Tommy, Clinton, and their community navigate adolescence, personal and collective hopes clash with harsh realities, culminating in a heartbreaking, memorable conclusion that lingers well after the final game.
So how'd you guys find it?
I can see why this book won the Governor General's Award. It explores a lot of big themes and issues in Canada, generational trauma, racism, residential schools, hockey. It's very literary. I can see this being on the syllabus in a lot of high school English classes. It also just feels very familiar. I don't know if either of you felt this when you were reading it, but I've just read so many similar books by Indigenous authors. I'm thinking specifically of Katerina Vermette's The Break, and the books in that series, which is also set in Winnipeg, also has a cast of Indigenous characters where each chapter is from a different character's perspective. But there's a lot of books that have some of these elements. I'm thinking Five Little Indians, They're There by Tommy Orange, which this book is often compared to and I talked about recently. The Night Watchman, which we read recently. Kiss of the Fur Queen, April Raintree, which are both set in Winnipeg. So it really feels like, to me at least, that Kyle Edwards is paying homage to all of these works that came before. And I think he's doing a really good job. I think we probably all had the same feeling about this book, that it's almost too big. There's so many characters, there's so much going on. You get really far away from the main narrative, which I think is about the Tigers, I assume. But overall, I think it's very well done.
I agree. I think with everything that Toby said, especially the idea that, and this isn't a knock to the book, that for sure this is going to appear on high school syllabuses between now and forever. It's going to be required reading, and for a good reason. It's well written. There's a lot to talk about in this book. It discusses a lot of social issues that are real and persistent and may not be known by, well, not even everyone in Winnipeg, let alone everyone in Canada or across the world. I didn't feel like there was anything really new in it in terms of, I've never read a book like this before. Yes, Katarina Vermette was definitely someone that came to mind while I was reading it with all the sort of the different characters. And I almost sort of imagined like, could this take place in the Vermette verse in a way? Like, I mean, a lot of I really liked how he incorporated real places, but also fictional places. Like, I think it's pretty obvious that St. Croix High School is St. John's High School, but for whatever reason, changed the name, but references real places and real streets. So it's
like the place we're at, for instance. Millennium Library.
Exactly. A pivotal scene happens right here at the Millennium Library. And last week I was at a meeting at the West Kildonan Library, and I think I was weirding out my car passengers because I was saying, because we were driving down McGregor, and I said, that convenience store is featured because there actually is a convenience store close to the corner of McGregor and Burroughs that looks kind of like the Flatiron Building in New York City, which was the other reason why I kind of wanted to try make some hamburger macaroni soup. So the book's definitely, I felt immersive in this, all the characters and the community. It's a Google Street Viewer's dream, honestly. Like, thank you for that, Kyle Edwards. Yes, I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was a solid read. It can stand among the greats like April Raintree and Katarina Vermette for sure. And I'm looking forward to what he'll write next, because I'm hoping that if this was his thesis statement, it's like, yes, you can write. Congratulations. Let's see what else you got.
So I always like to talk about my experience reading a book as well as like the book itself. So with this book, I got nervous near the beginning. Through the course of the book, he's using different narration styles for each chapter, like based on the character. And one of the early chapters, I think, was Tanis. And it was very like long run-on sentences and things like that. And I started to worry that this was going to be one of those books where the author uses stylistic things in a way that kind of get in the way of the book. And I got nervous. And then as I'm reading it, I felt it kind of smooth out some. And then he started changing perspectives, like first person, second person, third person, and second person. Like,
I know the unicorn of points of view.
Yeah, right. Very rarely used because it's kind of annoying typically. And I very quickly noticed the similarities, as you mentioned, to Katarina Vermette's The Break, especially. But I've also noticed this as a trend in a lot of Indigenous fiction, that they are often told from a community point of view rather than an individual point of view, and often have, like, aside from the books you mentioned, there's also The Grandmother Tells the Story, and there's just a lot of books that work that way in this tradition.
That one even had bison.
Yeah, I know.
Talking.
But just as the book kept going, like all of my little concerns about that all kind of faded away because, as you've said, he's a very skilled writer, and it just kept drawing me in. I felt really attached to a lot of the characters, and man, they were all rich. Like, there was not a flat stereotype character in the bunch, which is a remarkable thing for balancing that many characters. You know, you're going along with the story, and I was enjoying it and thinking, like, you know, I thought the ending, like, was going to be like, you know, the team still gets kicked out of the league or something like that. But the actual climax was not what I expected, even though it fits completely. Like, it's not something that should have been entirely unexpected, I guess. But yet it still caught me by surprise. And then the tragedy at the end, like, ultimately is, I don't know, do we want to spoil it or do we want to leave this one?
I feel like we can spoil it. We always do.
Yeah. So Clinton dies at the end, which was a real gut punch because he was my favorite character.
Me too.
Yeah, I related to him the most.
Yeah, he was awesome, right? He was the character you're really pulling for, and he's doing so much in the face of some really, really hard challenges. And then for him to be shot at the end by police, unarmed, you know, not having actually committed a crime, right? Like, just wrong place, wrong time, and such a common story. That was the other thing. This book reeks of realism. I've worked at the library for a lot of years, so I've been downtown a lot. I used to work in outreach when we would go around to community areas, so I've been around a lot of different people and heard a lot of different stories, and it's just all of the character stories are very realistic. These could be just stories of Kyle's friends that he knew growing up. It could be autobiographical, just very authentic and very, I don't know, there's a lot of love in his writing for the characters and for the place and for all of that stuff, and a lot of frustration with all of the societal challenges and the racism, the hatred that people experience. So I found it deeply affecting. At the beginning, when I was reading on, I was thinking, yeah, this is something like, I would say if you like this, go read Katerina Vermette right away because she does it better. But by the end, I was like, not sure. My estimation of his writing kept rising as the book kept going. And by the end, I thought, yeah, this is a great book. And yeah, it's one of those books that everyone should read eventually because it lays it out very clearly. It's a great book.
I think you're so right about how the different voices tell a different story. And before we read this, we were kind of maybe half jokingly talking about how this is going to remind us of Indian Horse by Richard Wagamese because there's the hockey. And we were talking about that. And so I was kind of expecting more of a, I don't know why I thought of this, but I thought, okay, the main character is going to be Tommy because he has the best name, Tomahawk Shields.
It's a good name.
And yet there's a bit of a bait and switch where he's not, I wouldn't say he is the main character. I think it's sort of like the sidekick becomes the main character, Clinton. And not only that, but there are so many other moments that feel not central to the plot, but essential for the story. Like, for example, one of my favorite chapters was Maggie Mary Taken Alive. And she's a minor character related to another minor character. She's the aunt and caregiver to Jonah, who is the goalie on the team. So in the actual story, she's like at least twice removed from the main narrative. But her chapter where it talks about, she has a whole rich backstory in life that's told about how she became the caregiver of Jonah. And that could have been a novel all on its own. And it's this one chapter. And I think it starts with, here's the story of an auntie. And it just kind of goes off. And it's like, if you're taking like the Power of Plain Language course, they would say, cut that out. It's bulk. But it's essential to the story. And one of my favorite moments, and the fact that it comes very close to the middle of the novel, I don't know. Is she the secret main character? I don't know. But I love that there were all these little characters that, like you were saying, Dennis, are not just two-dimensional avatars of something. Each one of them has an interesting backstory. And I don't know if we want to talk about Pete and the only person written in the second voice. I have a bit of a theory.
Tell us.
I feel like the author's saying that we are all Pete. We, the reader.
Because we're white?
No, because Pete doesn't seize the opportunity. He misses the mark. He's pining for this woman. And when he has an opportunity to do something, he hesitates and he loses out. And I don't know if he's saying that as readers or as people, we need to take that opportunity that we think. We need to take a risk. We need to tell a person that we love them. Or if we're unhappy in our job, we should make a move. We should do something because otherwise we're going to end up like Pete, alone and sad. Even though he has a new Zamboni.
I was so happy for him when he got that Zamboni.
I mean, it was even kind of like sexual.
Well, didn't he talk about how they could
get up in there?
Yeah.
So as long as we're on Pete, and like, okay, I love the book. I think it's awesome, but I do have like a couple of minor quibbles that bug me a little bit about it. So what is Pete's situation with the arena?
Yeah, like is he paying for all of this stuff himself?
Well,
is that?
Because when you read it, it says that like basically he inherited his role from his dad, who inherited it from his dad. But he's paid a salary by the city. It says so. But he's like saving up money from his salary to buy the Zamboni?
Yeah, I wondered about that too.
He's also the only employee of this whole place. The city of Winnipeg does not operate that way.
And he can hire other employees.
Yeah, he hires people off that. Yeah. The city of Winnipeg does not operate that way. So I did not understand that at all.
Did you picture the arena as a specific location in Winnipeg?
Well, as I said, I'm not a hockey guy, so I have not been to any local arenas and seen how they're laid out, aside from like a local community club where I see their outdoor rink. So I didn't.
Well, in my Google Street View travels, there was an arena that was close to the St. John's High School community arena that I thought, yeah, that could be it. Okay. I don't have the name of it in front of me, but that's sort of what I was just picturing. But I didn't have a specific. But I mean, I have an idea what. Like a lot of these arenas look the same. And there's one scene that takes place at the Dakota Community Club, which is right next to the Louis Braille Library. Yeah. So that arena I can picture very well.
The other small quibble I have, as long as I'm quibbling, I'll get them out of the way. That scene where Clarissa and Clinton meet at Millennium Library to have their interview. Mm-hmm. He described a place in the building that does not exist. It's surrounded by glass, so the only place that could be would be the reading terrace.
Yeah.
Except she says it's pretty close to the bathroom, which it's not. It's the farthest place you can be from the bathroom. And it said, looked at a small clearing. There's no such view from the Millennium Library, unless you count the Millennium Library Park as a small clearing, and it's not. So
he got a little creative.
Yeah, but it annoyed me because it's like, oh, Millennium Library, they're talking about a place that doesn't exist in our library. Anyway, it was a minor quibble. It's just because I'm a library nerd.
I found that there was one detail too. I think they met on was it the second floor? And I was like, what? Like, why the second floor? Like, meet on the fourth floor. Like, that's the place to go.
Well, also for an interview, they could have booked the tutorial room. You can book a tutorial room for free at Millennium Library on the second floor. Little plug while we're at this. And if you're doing an interview for your student newspaper on a really big issue, I recommend doing that.
If only the Governor General's Award Committee consulted the library for fact checking, maybe.
We wouldn't have gotten in the way of that. I mean, it's a tiny thing,
Yeah, no, those are both valid points. Yeah, Pete. Yeah, he's more than an employee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He felt like the owner of the place.
Well, he also slept there on occasion.
Yeah. He dedicated his life to that building and to making the ice good and to sharpening those skates. A central figure in the community kind of holding an important piece together.
You know how a lot of the novels we've read by Indigenous writers, they have an element of magic realism. And there seems to be lacking that in this book, but maybe Pete is sort of a spirit or.
No, he's very, very earthly though.
But maybe he's more than he appears because he's all of us.
Because he's the you.
Maybe I'm hung up on that.
Yeah.
We need to ask Kyle Edwards.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, I mean, the other thing with the characters, all the characters we were introduced to are connected closely to each other. It's like we get this real microcosm of, I didn't count how many there are. Trevor made a graph or a chart.
Yeah, we should upload that to the website.
Yeah, I could add a picture of this.
But did you count how many characters?
I didn't count the number of characters, no. But just by looking at this nest of names, we're looking at close to 20 names probably, major and minor. And this might be a little bit behind the scenes, but usually for an episode, what I'll do is I will write out a list of character names, just so that when we're referring to someone and I don't remember it in the moment, I can look down and see it. But I went a step further for this book where I created, I don't know what you'd even call this, like a flow chart or
flow chart is for decision making.
Okay, so it's not a flow chart, but it's like a
family tree almost.
A family tree, a relational tree of all the characters and how they're related. And I also started to write in which voice it was, first, second, or third person as it was written, because I was trying to see if that had something to do with it. And what I did find is that the characters that had the first person voice tended, but not always, to be unreliable. I'm thinking of Tommy's mom and her friend Little Feather.
Well, I will say, I think that some of them also changed voices, because at the beginning, I'm pretty sure that Tommy and Clinton were third-person narrative, but by the end, they were first-person narrative.
Okay, see, I didn't pick that up. I think Tommy was third all the way.
No, towards the end, he's saying I.
Is that right? Okay.
Yeah.
Is he saying I, though, in another character's chapter?
No, in his chapters towards the end.
Huh.
At the beginning, it was definitely third person. But by the end, there was a lot more first person than there had been. And I think that's, kind of symbolic of you're getting closer and closer to these characters.
What I did notice is towards the end, some characters that hadn't spoken themselves yet start to speak, like Clinton's brother Kelvin starts to get chapters of his own. And we get some of those really interesting flashbacks, like where he meets his friends, Hurricane.
Moose.
And how like those guys, it just seemed like a bad dudes, but then you start to see how they became friends, and it's more complex than that, and how their friendship, the bonds formed when Kelvin was just newly down from the res.
There's another thing about this writing, like all of the characters are presented as sympathetically as possible. Even Kelvin, who's
Bad dude.
He's a bad dude.
Yeah.
He's trouble. He's carrying a gun. He's selling drugs. He's beating the crap out of his brother. And Clinton has to leave the house to get away from him, and trying to draw his brother into gang life. But he's not just presented as a thug. He's got depth to him. He's got decision making. He's trying to figure out. He's trying to balance things. That scene where he breaks into the arena. Looking at that and it's like, okay, he's trying to get sent back to jail so he doesn't have to make the decision about trying to get his brother into the gang? That was my thought.
Isn't he trying to steal things that he can sell to make money?
Yeah, but he was doing it very
debt to the
unsubtly.
dealer. Yeah.
He's doing it very unsubtly in a way that's
he's
almost
high,
guaranteed.
Isn't he, too? I think when Pete discovers him, he's like, oh, his eyes are all bloodshot and he looks kind of crazy. I mean, he's trying to steal a skate sharpener. It's pretty dumb.
I mean, it was very self-destructive.
Yeah.
Yeah, but to me, it felt like one of those things where you reach a point where you can't make a good decision anymore. There's no good way forward. And so I wondered if it was kind of, on some level, an attempt to get sent back to jail so that he wouldn't have to deal with this particular decision. But, it's hard to say. It could just be that, he got too high and then thought of a clever scheme that wasn't so clever. I don't know.
And even you're right, though. Even the scene where Tommy goes to get Clinton's stuff and can't find that one T-shirt.
Oh, and he washed it.
He had washed and got ready.
Yeah.
Very, very touching, very moving. This love and this older brother kind of mentality, while at the same time, he was doing a bunch of bad things and ultimately was not a good influence on Clinton, but they were still brothers and they still had those connections. And he was trying in a way to go straight or to get out. And there were so many moments in this book where I was thinking, why doesn't he just leave the neighborhood? But that's definitely coming from a point of privilege for me, sure. That makes a whole lot of sense to the reader, but I mean, that was his world. And he, where would he go? What would he do? This is his community, his people, and your ex or whatever, really had this chokehold on him.
Yeah, no, it's really difficult to leave a situation you're in, which is one of the problems that people who are, released from jail and trying to change their life in some way that they have, because you can't really get away from the people as long as you're in the city. They will run across you somewhere.
I mean, don't we see that with his dad, Errol Whitehead Sinclair?
Yeah.
Yeah. Out of prison and is trying to reintegrate into society.
Yeah. And try to somehow have a relationship with his sons, but doesn't know how to. Just doesn't have the ability to do it. Which I thought was so admirable of Clinton when he was in such a bad situation there with his brother. He had agency. He got out and he moved to that shelter.
Which is a real place, by the way.
Okay.
The Haven.
Okay. Yeah. And then so, I think that was the moment that I really fell in love with Clinton and could identify and was rooting for him, was the fact that he's actively trying to look out for himself and also just be a good person, and looking towards the future. And the way he befriended that guy, Jacob, it was so sweet.
This also led to one of my choke up kind of scenes where when Tommy figures out that Clinton is at the shelter, he's like, come stay with us. And Clinton's like, I can take care of myself, but you're my friend. And that's all it took.
Yeah.
And then that was one of the recurring themes throughout the book was, we've often talked before in past about books about found family. And in this book, a lot of families are broken. Usually the father is gone.
Often the mother, too.
Often the mother, too. A lot of grandparents taking over parenting duties again, forging something together. A lot of, Pete was adopted by an Indigenous woman who had lost her own children, who were taken from her at one point. And this is also something, that is very true to life, and places I've been and people I've talked to, seeing uncles, aunts, grandparents, friends take over parenting duties for kids whose own parents can't, for whatever reason, do that anymore. You see that a lot in the North End, particularly. And there's that mix of the tragedy of what's happened to the parents, because there's multiple different ways that happens. Could be drug addiction, could be mental health issues, like could be interaction with the justice system. But there's always someone picking up in the community, someone taking the extra work, raising kids that in some senses they're not responsible for, right? But still that responsibility is there, that care is there. And that's a very real thing that you see a lot if you're in the community. The first times I encountered it was kind of like shocking to me. So out of that tragedy, you also see this love and strength and like taking care of each other, which is inspiring. Like it's I just would outreach when we would go to certain schools, which also brought me to that other thing, like being in a family with a gang involved individual. When I was in outreach, there was a point where we were at one of the places we went to, and there was a kid there who had a worker with him. And I got a bit of the backstory. Apparently, that kid had been identified as vulnerable because most of his family had been involved in the criminal justice system. His older brother was in a gang. And so they were trying to do what they could to reduce the chance that this kid would also end up in a gang by providing him with a worker. It's a very difficult situation because, again, like this book, it lays it out so clearly. If you're in this situation, you have multiple pressures on you. A lot of people won't have Clinton's agency, his push, his independence there to go out and find a shelter on his own.
Yeah, Clinton is very exceptional in that way. Like, I don't think many teenagers would say this is an unsafe situation. I'm going to go find another place to live, and not just like with a family or friend, like at a shelter, and not even tell anyone about it. Like, not talk to a teacher or a guidance counselor or a friend. Just like, this is my life now. I live at this shelter, and that's all there is to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was also, thinking for himself when the coach said, "Don't talk to any media," and he decided, "Oh, this is wrong.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell my story," even though he still wasn't feeling 100% this is the right thing to do. But he did. He met with Clarissa and told a story, which then resulted in that beautiful scene of him joining the protest at Port Germain. Yeah, there's lots to like about Clinton.
Yeah, and he has like the OCD to struggle with. I mean, he's got a lot on his plate.
Yeah. And like a lot of these characters, Clinton included, they're sort of straddling more than one world. Like he and his family came down from the res when the res flooded. So there's that sort of that tension between res kids and city kids. And you get that also with like Tommy's sister, Asima, how she fully understands the problematic legacy of Cecil Rhodes and the Rhodes Scholarship, and yet she still really wants to be a Rhodes Scholar, And
well, it's a lot of money.
Yeah, and so that's
of opportunity.
That scene with her and that lady that's on the panel at that reception was so cringy and so maddening, but I'm sure very realistic. In terms of the talking down to somebody while sounding like you're being pleasant and social, the cluelessness.
With Kyle Edwards in the academic world himself, I do wonder if he took his own experience from that scene.
Yeah.
It was a good example of what I think they refer to generally as microaggressions.
Yes.
And all the little things you have to put up with and somehow not lash out, because if you lash out, then you're the problem. Right?
Yeah.
Which, again, was taken to its ultimate conclusion at that last hockey game where Clinton's in the bathroom and he overhears some people talking and they're like, yeah, it's better if they lose, but also like let it get rough. Let them get mad. If there's a fight, if it breaks out, then it's even better for getting them out of the league. Mm-hmm. So like a very deliberate attempt to provoke combined with all the small less deliberate or less intense methods of provocation that the characters have to deal with on a regular basis. Mm-hmm. But you mentioned the Idle No More protests. Mm-hmm. So it was interesting. This was set right around when Idle No More was becoming big news. I kind of expected it to be a little bigger part of the book somehow, because I remember Idle No More being very present in the city. Yeah,
it's interesting. There's a very specific time period for this book. It's like 2010, 2011, which is, I assume, specifically because of the Idle No More protests. And I didn't live here during that time. And so I was aware of what was going on, but I think there was much more here than elsewhere in Canada. Mm. But I don't know why else this time period would have been chosen besides that.
Well, it gets away from having to deal with the pandemic stuff if you set it more recently.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't need to be set in any specific time, though.
Yeah, maybe not. But I mean, I like that it brought up Idle No More, because in my memory is the biggest and most successful grassroots Indigenous movement that I can recall. It was kind of funny, when the Black Lives Matter protests were happening, there were protests here in Winnipeg for Black Lives Matter, and they were pretty big. Mm. And there was, on Reddit, people were asking, like, has there been anything like this for Indigenous people? And I said, well, there was Idle No More, but it didn't get the numbers that Black Lives Matter got, which is kind of emblematic of the whole problem. Like, Canadians in general oppose racism, and with the George Floyd murder in the U.S., people were rightfully outraged. But then the protests that came up from that, which originated in the U.S. primarily, got more of a response here than the homegrown Idle No More movement in terms of number of white Canadians who showed up to back it, which always bugged me. And I don't want to diminish the importance of Black Lives Matter. It's a very significant and important thing, and rightfully acknowledged and but also the situation with Indigenous people in Canada is much more close to home and much more something that we're all part of, and yet we can't get the same kind of groundswell of support for it. And that's, So I was glad that it got mentioned, because I don't think it gets mentioned enough.
You were talking about how, why the story took place exactly when it did in 2010, 2011. And I'm not sure why he chose this time, but one of the interesting things I thought was how he sort of juxtaposed the peaceful circle dance at Portage and Main with the hockey riots in Vancouver. There was that scene where they were watching the game, and then they were tearing the downtown Vancouver apart over a hockey game. And yet here's a group of people, Portage and Main, that were there, and it was kind of a beautiful moment. And again, I don't know what he was trying to say about that, but I thought it was interesting that both of those large-scale events happened within a few months of each other.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We can't let the podcast pass by another maybe either intentional or unintentional similarity to the title, Small Ceremonies, and how another Winnipeg author, Carol Shields, her first novel was called Small Ceremonies. And of course, one of the main characters' last name is Shields in this book, and there's the Shields family. Now, I don't. Maybe I'm reading too much into it. Surely, Kyle Edwards must have been aware.
Yeah, I thought about this a little bit. I haven't read the Carol Shields book, but I understand it's about a woman, an academic. It takes place within 1 year, which this book also takes place in a year. But I think probably he just liked the title. There's no copyright on titles. I can write a book and call it The Da Vinci Code.
Yeah. We didn't really talk about the title in relation to the book, but ceremony is important in Indigenous cultures, in most cultures, I guess. And there were a lot of reference to little things that people did to cope. Thinking especially of Clinton and his various things he does with his counting and such that could be viewed as ceremonial.
Think about Pete's cleaning of the ice.
Yeah, very
the
kind
spraying
of
and
ritualistic.
The shoveling.
Yeah.
Also Floyd, who we haven't talked about at all, his dancing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, speaking of Floyd, thanks for bringing him up, because he was an interesting character.
It's sacred, man.
Yeah. But also, he had an Indigenous mother, a black father, and at one point when they're playing in the All Nations hockey tournament, and Floyd's their best player. He's really good. And he is very into Indigenous culture. He's very focused on that, and it's an important part of his life, and that's a big part of his identity and how he was raised. When they get into the tournament, other teams challenge his right to be there, saying he's not Indigenous because his skin is darker, his hair, it's obvious he's not full-blooded Indigenous.
He looks black. Yeah,
and so they think he's a ringer and he's not entitled to be there. And that was just part of the discussion about identity.
Well, there's also a lot about do you have a treaty card? Do you not have a treaty card? What does that mean? What is a treaty person? That's what they're dealing with in class with Ms. Damphouse. A lot, with identity and treaties and how that connects.
Because pretty much all of the main characters have some claim on Indigenous identity. Mm-hmm. Even Pete, with how his family went. But only, I don't know, I'm going to say maybe a third of the characters would actually have been status and been entitled to treaty rights.
Yeah, well, there's the scene where they're getting their $5, which I think you need a treaty card for that, right?
Yeah.
And then also with Denise, when she tries to get to the border and she just has this forged letter, and her friend, enabler, imaginary friend, Little Feather is, what did they call her?
A freedom baby.
Freedom baby, yeah.
I had to look that up.
That's an actual thing?
Well, when you look up freedom babies, you find a documentary about one woman in BC who had 4 kids who had them outside the hospital and did not register them. So she wasn't getting
Was she Indigenous?
Yeah, but she wasn't getting child benefit. They wouldn't have treaty status, like nothing, but she was like, to decolonize, you have to separate from the system entirely. But I had to check to see what it was, because some of the language and stuff that Little Feather and Denise were using reminded me a lot of sovereign citizen stuff. If you're not aware of the sovereign citizen movement, these are people who don't believe government laws apply to them, but they still use it to sue people all the time. It's nuts.
Didn't you a while back talk about a book about a town that wanted to not have any laws, and then it was involved like a bear or something? Or
yeah, that was a nonfiction book.
I'll have to look that up and put it in the notes. But
yeah, that was a great book. But yeah, the sovereign citizen thing is even more offbeat than that. And so I was a little worried that was what the character was. But the freedom baby thing, I don't fully get because I didn't dive into it. But it seems like it's a very small thing in the relative terms. But it is a thing.
yeah,
So it's like Denise heard about that and then latched onto that idea.
Yeah. Oh, Denise. That was a character that kind of broke your heart.
Especially when she gets to Portage and then calls Sam, and Sam is like, I don't want you here. And she just drives all the way back.
All the way back.
Oh.
It's like, yeah.
and Beatrice, the second friend, she
Yeah.
was real.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I feel like if I was Beatrice, I would have been like, we're going.
Yeah.
We're almost there. Like, we
Yeah.
might as well.
Yeah. Oh, the warmth and compassion of some of the people in snow.
Yeah.
The one thing that threw me most, though, was when they went through the border crossing. And the border crossing, instead of locking her up or whatever,
They're
was like
very nice.
very understanding and kind, which I have to say has not been my experience crossing the border from Canada to the U.S.
I also wonder how Denise was even able to rent a car. Because I feel like she was... It sounded like she was staying at a shelter. She probably didn't have ID, a credit card, a driver's license.
She did say that the guy at the car dealership or the rental place seemed uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah, no shit.
It's and her character was also another example of another issue that's very common, which is resources for mental health in general, as well as specific to Indigenous communities. But in my family, we have some parents who had a lot of mental health issues that were completely unaddressed, and how it really disrupts and breaks up a family. And that was the case there with Tommy and his family. And it just breaks my heart to see it, because especially because I've seen it in real life in my family, and it's just, there's no supports. It's really hard to get supports for mental health issues in North America in general.
It looks like things are going to turn around for Denise, though.
Yeah, she's on the upswing.
Yeah.
Most of the characters are. Like, by the end of the novel, I feel like, Tommy seems to have collected himself. Mm-hmm. I don't know how. I feel like he's really going to have to process a lot of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Kelvin, too.
Yeah, well, Kelvin's back in jail, so,
Yeah.
Who knows what happens with him going forward.
I also think a lot about, I'm not sure if it was Moose or Hurricane, one of Kelvin's cronies, who there's a bit about how he also struggles with mental health. He's quite depressed.
Yeah, that was Hurricane.
And he's like always talking on Facebook about how he's going to end it. And when he doesn't show up to things, Kelvin's like, oh, well, maybe he killed himself. And yeah.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I know exactly how that feels too.
Yeah.
And that is, yeah. There is so much, like I say, this thing is so true to life. It's amazing that there's not, I don't know, I just find it unusual for a novel to be this accurate.
Yeah, and usually, like, if a novel is accurate or, like, true to life, it can be kind of boring, because you're like, I'm just reading about everyday life. Like there's no excitement here. There's nothing to like take me away. But in this case, it worked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really well.
Does it say anywhere in the book, or did you guys pick up? Because I just realized in my complicated notes here, I don't have a notation for Tommy and Sam's father. You know, they're being raised by Coco, and Tanis, of course, is their mom. But do we ever hear? Like, I'm just wondering, is that ever talked about? I mean, it could very well be, but obviously not a main or influential part of the family at all. But I'm just wondering if there was ever even like a throwaway line about the father. Like, is he
I
up
don't
north?
recall.
Or I don't remember either. I might be something to go back.
I feel like there's some throwaway line, as you say, but I can't think of the specific.
I was thinking there was, but then I think I'm mixing that up with
Kelvin and Clinton's dad?
No, with Jonah's story.
Right, and Maggie's.
Yeah, because that was the guy who like left for a while and then came back, and then like he left for a long time, and
Went
she
to
eventually,
Oklahoma.
and then she eventually just blocked him
Yeah.
because because he wasn't around anymore. Even though he was saying, "Oh, I still care about my son," it's like, yeah, but you're like,
Yeah. That was all in that amazing chapter with Maggie.
Yeah.
And her marriage to Tim, and then how Tim died on the ice. And,
Yeah. Man, what a story.
Yeah. And again, like for like a secondary character to a secondary character, but yet such a rich story that's the story I'm thinking about. You know, it's really a tapestry.
We are kind of going a little long on time, so we're probably going to have to wrap this up. I always say we're running out of time, but it's like this time we're like really running out of time, and I feel like we could go longer on it.
We didn't even talk about Dog Creek.
Right. and Bernie the dog.
Yeah.
That was a great chapter too.
And why Pepsi is more Indigenous friendly than Coke.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
That was a throwaway line in there. I had to look that up. I still don't know. Is there any final statements anyone wants to make before we start moving on?
It was good. We liked it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Best book in many, many months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the first time in a long time I've read a book that used the word gitch.
That's a great word.
Also very true to home. If you're reading that, no one picked it as a nerd word, did they?
Nope.
No.
Okay. If you're reading this and you're not from the prairies and you're wondering what they're talking about, it's underwear.
Is gitch a prairie word?
Yeah.
Really?
It's Saskatchewan and Manitoba primarily.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. Gitch or gotch.
Oh, I thought
And
it was more well known.
I've hardly seen it since I was a kid, but every once in a while it comes up and it's like, oh yeah. Okay, so with that, we should move on so the episode doesn't get too long. Normally at this point, we do reading recommendations, but this is the last episode we record in 2025, and thus it's the first episode to be released in 2026. And we have a tradition. Instead of doing our usual book recommendations, we like to talk about our reading resolutions. So last year, we each made some resolutions, and we're going to go around, see how we did. And then after that, we'll go around and share our reading resolutions for the coming year. So who wants to start with the reading resolutions from last year?
I'm happy to go
Sure,
first.
go for it.
I think I was inspired by reading the 5th season this time last year. So my reading resolution for 2025 was I was going to read all of the Hugo Award finalists for that year, and there were 6 of them. I managed to read 2 of them. I read the winner, which was Some Desperate Glory by Emily Tesh, which was a very science fiction-y, took place on a space station. Earth was destroyed, but there was this other planet where people were living. It was interesting. It got a little sort of technical that kind of lost me, but I enjoyed it. And then I had already mentioned this on a previous episode, but Starter Villain by John Scalzi was also a finalist, and I very much enjoyed that. But to make up for only reading 2, I also read the winner of the novella category, which was Thorn Hedge by Ursula Vernon, who writes under the name T. Kingfisher. And I quite enjoyed this Thorn Hedge book. It's sort of the classic princess in a tower theme, but kind of twisted where maybe the princess is in the tower for a good reason. Mm-hmm. And there's a knight, but rather than a knight that is fighting for the Christians in the crusade, he's Muslim. Mm-hmm. So a few little interesting twists on the classic fairy tale. So I recommend Thorn Hedge as well.
Mm-hmm.
All right. My reading resolution for 2025 was to listen to an audiobook. So being new to the world of audiobooks, I didn't want to just listen to any audiobook. So I did some research to see what's considered, the best audiobooks. We didn't have any of them. Then I remembered an interview I listened to with a woman named Julia Whelan. Have either of you heard of Julia Whelan?
No.
She's a writer and an actor, but most famously, she's an audiobook narrator. She's actually been dubbed the Adele of audiobooks by the New Yorker. She's narrated hundreds of audiobooks and does a lot of really popular, what's considered women's fiction, like Taylor Jenkins Reid, Kristen Hanna, Emily Henry. So as she's very big in her field, I decided I'd listen to a book read by her. But she's also an author, and she's written 2 romance novels, one of which is called Thank You for Listening, which is a romance in which the lead female character is an audiobook narrator. And of course, Whelan has narrated her own book, which is very meta. So we have Julia Whelan, the queen of audiobooks, narrating her own book, which is about an audiobook narrator. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so
Well, you had to read that
this
one.
is the one.
Yeah,
this is the one. I also thought romance would be a good choice because it'd be easier to listen to, not a really complicated narrative or anything.
What about the sexy parts out loud?
Yeah, there's that too. I was curious how that would go. I did not enjoy the experience of listening to an audiobook. I had this idea that I could multitask. I could listen to an audiobook and do dishes or fold laundry or cook dinner or even on my commute. But I could not listen to an audiobook and do anything else. I got so easily distracted. I would drift off. I'd have to rewind and go back because I'd missed so much. I did eventually figure out that I had to listen to this book much in the same way as I would read a print book, just sitting in one spot. So the experience wasn't great. It wasn't something I really enjoyed as an experience, I guess. That said, I can understand why Julia Whelan is considered to be top in her field. She's an amazing narrator. She does men's voices, women's voices. She does accents of all different stripes in this book. So I did enjoy the book itself a lot, but not the experience of listening to an audiobook.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I tend to enjoy audiobooks most when I'm walking.
Yeah, even then I got so distracted. There's a bird and then I was gone.
You just got to be careful not to get run over by a car is my thing.
Yeah, because you really do have to focus,
If you want a different kind of audiobook experience, not saying you have to, but full cast audio recordings.
Oh, yeah.
Like World War Z.
Okay.
The canonical best experience of it is not to read the book, it's to listen to the audiobook.
Okay.
Which includes Mark Hamill, who
nice.
does a lot of voice work, amongst other things. But just in case you want to try again.
All right.
I also just wanted to mention that I listened to some of the Small Ceremonies novel on audiobook, and it was well done that way in that when the voice would change, they had different readers. So if it was Clinton's chapter, there was a voice, and if it was Seema's chapter, there was a female voice. So it helped keeping things straight too, which I thought was good.
Yeah. Last year, I was also inspired by N.K. Jemisin's The Fifth Season, so I resolved to read more sci-fi and fantasy. Specifically, I wanted to read multiple book series, and I started by finishing the Broken Earth series, which you guys told me was cheating, because I had read the first book in December, which, fine. Yeah. But it was awesome. The whole series was great, and it finished up well. My original intention was to read the Imperial Ratch series by Anne Leckie, because I had read the first book many years ago, and I thought I'd like to finish that series, but I didn't get to it because I kept finding other books. So in March, I discovered Dungeon Crawler Carl by Matt Dinneman, which is a fun series. It's in a genre called Lit RPG, which is kind of like a book that is meant to be like a computer RPG game where you have characters and they have stats and various things like that. And that's kind of part of the book.
I'm reading the second one in that series right now.
Yeah. So in this one, aliens invade Earth and use their advanced technology to level the planet and turn it into an 18-level dungeon within the Earth, forcing the survivors of their invasion to take part in a life-or-death game show which is being broadcast to the stars. And we're following Carl, from the title, who enters with his ex-girlfriend's cat, Princess Donut the Queen Anne Chonk, and the two embark on a wild ride that just keeps getting wilder as the series progresses. It's still in progress, but it's up to 7 books at this writing.
It's still in progress?
Oh, yeah, it's not done. There's 18 levels to this dungeon. Come on.
Yeah. I guess maybe I thought that they would like knock out several levels in the other books.
Sometimes they do. Sometimes
Okay.
they do multiple levels. Sometimes a book is just a single level.
Oh, wow. I didn't know. I thought it was done.
The characters are really interesting. The relationship between Carl and Princess Donut, because she gets intelligence over the course of this and becomes a full-on character in her own right. There's a kind of a rhythm to the book where, a bunch of action happens and then they level up and they distribute their points and talk strategy and then they go back into it. It's a fun ride. This inspired me to look at other things in a similar genre, and I found a genre called isekai, which basically involves people who are transplanted to and have to survive in another world, which can be a fantasy world or a game world or a parallel universe. So I discovered a series called Beware of Chicken by an author known just as Casual Farmer. And it involves a person from our world who's transported to I'm going to mispronounce this probably, Jiangxia world, which is a type of Chinese high fantasy that involves powerful characters called cultivators who cultivate qi, the life energy, to become more and more powerful so that they can challenge the gods themselves. It's very epic and, you are courting death, challenging me, like stuff like that. But this is a take on it where a character from our world enters the body of a cultivator at the moment of the cultivator's death and then takes over his life essentially. But he dies because he's being beaten up by other members of his sect who are just being real jerks. And he decides, screw this, I'm going to go off into a quiet corner of the country and farm. And he builds up a farm using his superhuman strength and key powers to put life into the soil and stuff like that. He ends up connecting with the nearby village and all kinds of stuff happens. It's kind of a cozy fantasy type thing. At this writing, I think there are 4 in the series right now, and we don't carry it at WPL. So you're pretty much stuck getting an ebook from Amazon, I think. That was a whole ton of fun. And this year has been one of my most fun years in a long time reading because these books and other that they led me to have been just really fun. So now we should move on to our new reading resolutions. What do you got?
Well, for 2026, I was inspired by your resolution from last year, Dennis. So this year I am going to read a completely new series from start to finish. And unlike you, Dennis, I have not started it yet. I will wait till January 1st. And so I had to really do a bit of research to see, well, what series am I going to take? What author or what series? So I have decided on something called the Hawthorne and Horowitz series by Anthony Horowitz. I thought this would be quite doable because as I was looking it up, there were only 4 books in the series. But that was outdated information. Now there are 5 books, and there's actually a 6th one that's going to be published in 2026. Uh-oh. So now this seems like a legit challenge. 4 books to be okay, I could probably do that. 5, I don't know. 6 is about as many books as was in the Hugo finalists last year. So we'll see. So not only am I going to have to try to get through these 6 books, but I'm going to have to contend with the issue of getting copies of the older ones, because I'm sure there will be a renewed interest in the series when the newest one comes out. That always happens. So actually, I realize now I'm shooting myself in the foot by mentioning the series because it will only make it sound more interesting to our readers and thus create more competition for these books. So never mind. Don't read it.
Get your holds in now, man.
Yeah, I should get my holds
before the episode goes live.
Do you have to read them in order?
I mean, this is my first rodeo, right? Yeah, I think you have to read them in order.
Okay.
And it's kind of meta. I think Anthony Horowitz is a character in the book, and he kind of plays a Watson character to Hawthorne, who's a Sherlock Holmes character. So it seems like it checks a lot of boxes for me. Yeah. So I haven't read a single thing. I might read the first one and hate it, but that is my reading resolution for 2026.
Okay. My resolution for 2026. So my kid is almost 10 and she's a big reader. She reads almost entirely graphic novels and I can't bring them home from the library fast enough. And sometimes she'll get really into a book and want me to read it too. And sometimes I do, but most of the time I don't because I have my own reading to do. And I selfishly don't want to take time away from that. But when I do read a book that she's also read, it ends up being a really good experience because we can talk about it and we can just have a discussion about the book and why she liked it and what I thought of it. So my 2026 reading resolution is to just read more of the books that she reads.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'm realizing that in all my preparations, I did not think of a new reading resolution.
Uh-oh.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take inspiration from Trevor's last year resolution, and I'm going to read this year's Hugo finalists. Nice. I have no idea what any of them are.
Look them up for you?
Well, I think I'm capable of finding out.
What if you're not interested in any of them?
Yeah. Well, the thing is, I read Starter Villain by John Scalzi last year, too, just coincidentally. Well, actually, because you mentioned it, and I like John Scalzi, so I thought, hey, worth it a read. Like I say, this year, reading more sci-fi and fantasy, I've been really happy with what I've been reading, so I kind of feel like there's a decent chance that I will like most of them, probably. But I'm just taking that entirely on faith, like... Yeah, since I didn't come up with anything else, I think that's worth trying. And also Trevor failed at his, so...
Yeah.
I mean, you can also edit this to add a different one if you regret your decision.
That's right.
That's true, but it'll be weird because there will be no feedback from anybody, and it'll just be, me talking. I'll have to do some really creative editing. Yeah.
Yeah, and even if you get past 2 of the finalists, you can feel good because you got more than I read.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but it's worth a shot. I'm going to try the Hugo finalists. So with that, it is now time for every Logophile's favorite segment, Nerd Words for Word Nerds, in which we nurture our vocabularies by giving them a little extra attention. Who would like to share a word?
I kind of have 2 this month. I stumbled upon a Substack called the Dead Language Society, written by a PhD linguist. And there's an entry called Dog is a Weird Word, which talks about the etymology of the word dog. And I guess if you are in this world, dog is a mystery. And I didn't totally understand the article. It was very academic. I had to consult some other sources. But basically, no one knows where the word dog came from. In all the other Germanic languages, the word is hound. Like there's hond in Dutch and hund in German and Swedish. But no one knows where the English dog came from. The ending OG is particularly peculiar and consistent to animal names only in English, like the words frog and hog. But that's all I can say about dog, because no one knows where it's come from. But in my research about the word dog, I also learned that the word canine and cynic have the same origin. So my second word is cynic, which comes from the Greek knikos, which means dog-like. And I didn't know this, but cynicism was actually a school of thought in ancient Greek philosophy that said that people are reasoning animals and the purpose of life, and the way to gain happiness is to achieve virtue by living simply and free from social constraints. And the first philosopher to talk about this was Antisthenes, who'd been a pupil of Socrates, and his nickname was something like the absolute dog. And there's
DAWG.
And there's a couple reasons Antisthenes and the Cynics might have been called dog-like. It could have been due to their lifestyle. They lived a very ascetic, kind of wandering life due to their belief that all you need is strength and virtue to survive. You don't need any of the comforts. It also could be in relation to where they hung out, which was a place called the Kynosarge, which translated to the Grey Dog, and is a gymnasium near Athens where Antisthenes taught. But yeah, I just thought that was interesting. Dog, cynic, canine, all related.
So what was the first recorded usage of dog?
It was early. It was in Middle English, like 12th, somewhere between 12th and 14th century, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they just don't know where it came from.
They don't. It's a mystery of the English language. Huh. Yeah, I can send you the article from that Substack I found, and if you can understand it, then I would love for you to explain it to me.
Well, I'll put it in the show notes, and so perhaps maybe one of our listeners can tell us what it's about.
Yeah, it gets into all sorts of weird linguistic stuff that I tried, but I just couldn't understand it.
Do you know what I like about the word canine is that you can also spell it with the letter K and the number 9.
It's true, yeah.
Which often happens.
Yeah.
For my word this week, it's taken from the novel. Early on, Tommy is talking about Winnipeg, and the sentence caught my eye. He could see his street, feel its pulse, and spalling sidewalks. I had never heard the word spalling before, or at least not aware of it. So spalls are basically little chips that break off of something. And concrete spalling is the breakdown of concrete via natural weathering or chemical reactions that results in sections of cement chipping off the main body. So spalling sidewalks are just those rough, worn sidewalks where everything's chipped away and, it really needs to be replaced. A pretty common sight in Winnipeg with our winters. Yeah, the winters are particularly hard on concrete. I just thought it was a neat word.
That's a good word. That's a new word for me.
Yeah, and for a literary book, it's not like he pulled out like lots of obscure words or anything. Just tossed a few in for decoration,
So my word this month sort of comes from the book. In a few of the descriptions of the summaries that I was reading to write our summary, I read the term panoptic is in a panoptic narrative. And so I had never heard that word before. I looked it up, and it seems like that's a made-up word. I couldn't find a good definition for it, but I understand the idea that it's sort of like different voices coming together, and it's not just one narrative from one point of view. That's sort of like, an omniscient, well, not an omniscient, but like kind of what we've talked about during the main part of the podcast, different voices come in. But what it did lead me to was the term panopticon, which was called the perfect prison. It was designed by philosopher Jeremy Bentham in the late 18th century, which you think if you're a philosopher, why are you designing prisons? But the other interesting thing about Jeremy Bentham, you may or may not know, is that in his will, he demanded to be taxidermied. After his body was used for like a medical dissection for everyone to look, then the rest of it was taxidermied, and he's on display to this day in a college in London. And I mean, I've often joked about in my will, I'd like to be taxidermied and left around, but this guy actually did. So
following in the footsteps of great communist dictators.
Yeah. And I guess what happened was like his head, I guess in 18th century technology, I mean, I guess maybe even today, taxidermying somebody's head, it didn't turn out great. But so they've kept his head separate, and they have like a wax likeness of his head. But his body is his bones and stuff, and it's been stuffed with straw. And
so there's a wax head on his real body.
Exactly right. And
where's his real head?
His real head is in a separate case that you can sometimes see. I'm not sure exactly where it's stored. I don't think it's on display, but it's there. I've seen a picture of it. We can Google it. It doesn't look great. There's a rumor at the college that he worked at and where he is now that they wheel him in for every board meeting and that it says Jeremy Bentham present but not voting. But that's apparently not true. But anyway, the panopticon is this type of prison that's kind of built in a giant circle where the prisoners are visible to the guards that are in sort of a central tower, but the prisoners never can see the guards. So they never know if they're being observed or not, with the idea that just the thought of being observed is enough to have them exhibit good behavior. So a lot of modern sort of surveillance technology and social media and all these kinds of things, they talk about we're living in a panopticon right now where we're always being observed or have the possibility of, and what does that mean for our society? But I was far more interested in Jeremy Bentham's taxidermy than panopticon.
Yeah. So. Also, modern like reality TV and stuff like that has shown that being observed all the time does not lead to good behavior.
Although that might be the type of people, not necessarily the 24-hour surveillance.
Well, presumably you being observed all the time was supposed to improve behavior, but it does not do that for everybody. And sometimes it brings out the worst behavior. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have for this month. Thank you so much for joining us, dear readers. For our next episode, we're going to read and discuss The Postcard by Anne Beret. Luminous and gripping to the very last page, it is an enthralling investigation into family secrets, a poignant tale of mothers and daughters, and a vivid portrait of the 20th century Parisian intellectual and artistic life. January 2003. Together with the usual holiday cards, an anonymous postcard is delivered to the Beret family home. On the front, a photo of the Opera Garnier in Paris. On the back, the names of Anne Beret's maternal great-grandparents, Ephraim and Emma, and their children, Nomi and Jacques, all killed at Auschwitz. 15 years after the postcard is delivered, Anne, the heroine of the novel, is moved to discover who sent it and why. Aided by her chain-smoking mother, family members, friends, associates, a private detective, a graphologist, and many others, she embarks on a journey to discover the fate of the Rabinovich family, their flight from Russia following the revolution, their journey to Latvia, Palestine, and Paris. What emerges is a moving saga of a family devastated by the Holocaust and partly restored through the power of storytelling that shatters long-held certainties about Anne's family, her country, and herself. Have comments or book suggestions for us? Send us an email. You can find all our contact info at the bottom of the page at wpl-podcast.winnipeg.ca. You can also find all our past episodes there too. If you haven't already, subscribe to Time to Read on your favorite podcasting service. Maybe leave us a review. tell your book-loving friends about us too. And until next time, make sure you find time to read.
There's also a contestant on the current season of Project Runway Canada named Little Feather.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah.